Welcome back. Well, the beer industry brewing up a storm. So far this year, take a look. Anheuser-Busch up 4%, Brown-Forman up 13%. But Boston Beer, which is America's leading brewer of craft beer, Sam Adams, up nearly 34%. And that's not all. Did you know that craft brewers provide over 100,000 jobs in the country? According to our next guest, there's Main Street, there's Wall Street, and then there's the side street. That's where craft breweries are booming. With us right now is Julia Herz. She is Craft Beer Program Director at the Brewers Association. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So the craft beer business has been booming. Why?
There's innovation in beer, full flavor in beer. No longer does a light American lager satisfy every beer lover's beer occasion.
And what are you seeing in terms of the popularity of craft?
We're seeing a localization in beer movement. So locally, not even distributing out of their states, brew pubs and microbreweries, plus regional craft brewers, either regionally or nationally distributing, putting the innovation back in beer.
A lot of private companies.
Yeah, a lot of private companies. Where we're sitting today is not really touching 97% of the 2,500 breweries. They are not Wall Street or publicly traded. These are counterculture, counter-corporate breweries doing what they do with most of their own dollars.
And you say that the industry has added more than 100,000 jobs in the U.S.?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you figure?
Well, especially when you have 1,100 of the 2,500 breweries are restaurant breweries. So you've got full and part-time jobs. The average craft brewer has 10 to 50 jobs per brewery, and some many, many more.
Now, I know they're real popular, but can these guys compete with the larger, more, deep-pocketed companies like an Anheuser-Busch?
Well, it's about competition and diversity, and the small brewers are filling a niche for that fuller flavor that I mentioned. So there is room for more. There's more demand in the marketplace for craft brewed beer from small and independent producers right now than supply.
Where's the money coming from? Who are the big buyers?
Mostly of the big buyers, like I said, literally privately owned, some private equity, but this is mom and pop small street businesses.
Interesting. I mean, if people can brew their own beer if they want it.
I'm a home brewer right here.
How do you do it? How do you do it?
You do it simply. If you can make soup or you can bake bread, you can make beer.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are prices moving up as a result of this popularity?
Prices will ebb and flow, certainly, and continue to inch up. We're dealing with not a commodity. There's agricultural products involved. So with that, you've got a challenge on the pricing side for sure.
Agricultural prices have gone up.
Yeah. So
and
shipping and trucking.
That is passed on to the consumer.
Yeah, it is. And taxes. I mean, small brewers pay a disproportional amount of taxes compared to comparable industries, too.
Why?
About 40% of the cost of beer, by the way, is taxes, because you have federal excise taxes on beer. And so it's a whole different ballgame for these small brewers to compete and thrive, and they're still thriving double digits, 15% by volume growth in 2012 alone, year after year double digits, despite the challenges that they're up against.
That's really important. I'm glad you mentioned that, the excise tax, because people don't think of that. The 40% of the cost is tax.
Yeah, it's astronomical, but yet they're still surviving. Although if they had a recalibration of that federal excise tax rate, they'd put more money back into their businesses and continue to grow and put more jobs back into the country.
You're expecting we'll see consolidation here? Why wouldn't a larger brewer acquire some of these small guys that are doing so well?
Well, they are. The larger brewers are looking at the mojo from the small and independent craft brewers and buying up some of them. Goose Island Brewing was bought by Belgian-owned AB InBev, and they're doing certain things to diversify their brand offerings. That is good for beer.
What did you bring us here?
We brought some great
beer here.
We got Starr Hill from Virginia. We got NOLA from New Orleans. We got Four Peaks from Tempe, Arizona. I got a Bohemian Pilsner from Texas, from St. Arnold. This is the diversity I'm talking about.
So what's the difference, though? I mean, I see one and another. I mean, how do you know, what you might like and not like?
It's all about experimentation, just like what we learn we like food. And this is changing the food arts world. We document 142 beer styles at the Brewers Association, who I represent. And I'm not going to say, you coming out of the gates, if you're just hearing about this craft beer thing, that I can tell you what you like. Experiment. There's ales, there's lagers, there's 5% ABV beers, which are the majority of what those 142 styles are, and there's 10% beers. So just experiment.
Beer versus ale. What's the difference?
Ale is a form of beer. They're yeast flavor forward beers that are fermented at warmer temperatures. They're glorious.
Right.
They're great.
Okay, so you want to have that at a warmer temperature.
You can serve ales certainly at warmer temperatures. 38 degrees is your standard temperature for light American lagers. Craft beers have put different appreciation techniques on the table, and the way we're enjoying beer now is a whole broad spectrum of ways.
All right, we will leave it there. Julia, good stuff. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. We'll be watching the success of craft brewing. Julia Herz joining us Craft Beer Program Director at the Brewers Association. Then we're taking a short break, and then 6 American League pennants, 4 World Series titles, the 5th winningest manager of all.